At the Marvel Studios, Li Qingyue was sunbathing when his phone rang. He answered it with his eyes closed. Hello? Who is it? Teacher. The mayor of New York City just tested me, and I suspect someone is watching us. Upon hearing this, Li Qingyue immediately opened his eyes and sat up. Do you know who it is? I don't know, but I think the people who dare to do this must have a very powerful backing, perhaps even more powerful than S.H.I.E.L.D. But we've been cooperating with S.H.I.E.L.D. for so long and have never heard of such an organization. I understand. I'll figure it out. You get some rest. At the same time, the 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles walked in and greeted Li Qingyue. Hi boss, you're back. Yes, I'm back. Have you had any requests lately? Li Qingyue asked. There aren't any good commissions. They're mostly rescue missions or intelligence-gathering missions. I'm getting bored. Don't you think so, Michelangelo? Leo said to Mitch. Upon hearing the name, Li Qingyue instantly appeared in front of Leo, grabbing him by the neck. Seeing this, the other Ninja Turtles immediately grabbed Li Qingyue's hand and shouted, Boss! Let go of Leo. What did Leo do to offend you? Who are you? You're not Leo. Li Qingyue ignored the other three and stared intently at Leo, asking, The Earth will eventually belong to us. You may be powerful, but how can you fight against all of humanity? After saying that, Leo's body emitted a red light. Li Qingyue grabbed him and threw him into the sky. After reaching a height of 300 meters, he exploded and died. The powerful shockwave could even be felt by people standing on the ground. Leo is dead. Mitch knelt on the ground and murmured in despair. No, he's not Leo, Donnie said firmly. What did you say? Leo would never call you Michelangelo. He would only call you Mickey, me Donnie, and him Raphael. He would only call you Michelangelo when the teacher was angry. He is definitely not Leo, Donnie explained. That's right, he's not Leo. I'm not sure who the current Leo is either, but it's okay. I'll help you get him out. Li Qingyue comforted him. The three nodded, then left dejectedly. Li Qingyue looked at the faint purple blood on the road, then flew directly towards the Tri-Wing building. He quickly arrived at Director Fury's office, drew a door on the bulletproof glass with his finger, and walked in. What's wrong? Director Fury asked Li Qingyue. At this moment, not only Director Fury but also Coulson were in the office, and they seemed to be discussing some work-related matters. Li Qingyue remained silent, took out his magic wand, and said calmly to the two of them, Divine Edge without shadow. The next moment, an invisible attack struck the two of them directly, and they both cried out in pain and cursed at the same time. Fuck you, Ed Li, Chief Fury yelled. When Li Qingyue saw that the blood flowing from the two of them was red, he put away his wand and said, I just wanted to make sure you were human. What do you mean by that? Director Fury asked, frowning. Do you know any Skrulls? Li Qingyue asked Director Fury. Upon hearing this word, Director Fury's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately asked, How did you know they existed? Because they invaded Earth, Li Qingyue said angrily. After all, his employees had been replaced, which was something he could not tolerate. Impossible. They're all in outer space. How could they possibly be switched? Director Fury immediately retorted. This is the evidence. Li Qingyue threw the stone stained with purple blood onto the table. Director Fury remained silent after seeing the stone. I need to go to outer space. Do you want to come with me? Let's go. However, before leaving, Li Qingyue reminded Coulson not to tell them about their departure and to be careful of the people around him. Afterwards, Li Qingyue and Director Fury boarded a space fighter and flew towards the space station in outer space. This space station was built with a large amount of funding and was home to millions of Skrulls. Because a crisis once occurred on Earth, Director Fury used the Skrulls to resolve the crisis. In return for their help, Director Fury needed to find them a new planet suitable for them. Soon the two arrived at the space station. As soon as they entered the space, Li Qingyue saw countless Skrulls living harmoniously there. Some Skrulls even greeted Director Fury when they saw him. The two quickly entered a laboratory. Once inside, Director Fury immediately questioned, Talos, tell me, have you sent anyone to Earth? A Skrull, looking at Fury who was questioning him, immediately retorted angrily, Do you think we'd send anyone to Earth? We're living perfectly well here. And when are you going to find a suitable planet? It's been over a decade. If you didn't send anyone to Earth, then what is this? Fury demanded, pulling out a stone stained with purple blood. The Skrull named Talos was also stunned when he saw the purple blood on the stone. He immediately took out his machine to test it and quickly identified the owner of the blood. How could it be him? Talos couldn't help but exclaim. What's going on? You guys are kidding me. How could there be a mistake? This is his blood. This is absolutely impossible. Follow me. Talos led the two to the owner of the blood, who turned out to be a newborn Skrull. Now, not only Fury but even Li Qingyue was dumbfounded. Are you sure the blood is his? Yes, it's his, Talos said with certainty. Can you detect how many Skrulls are on the entire space station? Li Qingyue asked. Of course, come with me. The group then arrived at a control room, where Talos made a series of taps, and a number appeared. This number began to rise and eventually settled at 2,567,321. This is the number of people on the space station now. If there were more than 400,000 more, the space station would not be able to support so many Skrulls living together. How about you post a request? I'll help you find a new planet, and you give me a machine that can detect Skrulls. What do you think? Li Qingyue suggested. Really? That's right. Half a month on Earth will be enough for me, Li Qingyue said confidently. Okay. What do you need me to do? Li Qingyue then took out the parchment scroll, went through the formalities with Talos, and left the space station in front of the two of them, then flew towards deep space at faster-than-light speed. Little did they know that a group of young Skrulls were planning a coup on the space station. In a certain galaxy in the universe, Li Qingyue arrived here after passing through a black hole. He wanted to quickly reach a galaxy with a powerful civilization, but he had no star map, so he could only try to reach another galaxy in this way, and he successfully arrived in this unfamiliar galaxy. Looking at the magnificent galaxy before him, Li Qingyue was about to continue flying in one direction when suddenly a giant spaceship appeared in front of him. He quickly changed his position and looked at the familiar spaceship. Li Qingyue seemed to know whose vehicle it was. Dark Star, it seems this is Ronan's vehicle, Li Qingyue thought to himself. Then he simply attached himself to the Dark Star to see where Ronan planned to go. If all else failed, he would attack Ronan directly and get information from him about a planet suitable for the Skrulls to live on. As the Dark Star continued to traverse the wormhole, it finally stopped in front of a colorful planet, which was the familiar Xander. Holy crap! Is this going to be the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1? Li Qingyue looked at the familiar scene and immediately left the Dark Star. He entered Xander from another direction and arrived at a bustling city, where he saw a group of people working together to deal with Ronan. At this moment, Li Qingyue saw the members of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and immediately asked, "Are you the Guardians of the Galaxy?" The sudden sound startled the Guardians of the Galaxy. They all turned to look at Li Qingyue, especially Rocket, whose fiery temper led him to raise his weapon and fire at Li Qingyue. To everyone's surprise, Li Qingyue neither dodged nor flinched. Star-Lord tried to save Li Qingyue, but it was too late. The shell hit Li Qingyue directly. "Rocket, what are you doing?" Star-Lord yelled. "This was an unconscious action of mine. It's not my fault." The two began hurling insults at each other, at which point Li Qingyue's voice rang out again. "Have you two finished arguing?" Star-Lord and Rocket were still staring at each other. They even swallowed hard and stiffly turned their heads to look, only to find Li Qingyue standing unharmed in the smoke. They knew the power of this shell. At least among them, none of them could completely withstand its power. "Who are you?" "I'm the owner of an agency on Earth, and I've come here specifically to help you solve Ronan's problem. All you need to do is help me find a planet suitable for human habitation. What do you think of this deal?" Li Qingyue asked them with a smile. "Are you sure you can handle Ronan? Do you know what Ronan has up his sleeve?" "I know, it's the Power Stone. Don't worry, since I dare to say that, it means I have the strength to take down Ronan," Li Qingyue said confidently. Seeing this, Silverguard and the others finally nodded and agreed to his deal. Li Qingyue then broke through the defenses built by the Nova Legion's ships and hovered in front of the Dark Star, looking at Ronan through the window. Ronan's expression was extremely ugly at this moment. The same posture and the same actions seemed familiar to him. He had been driven away by Captain Marvel in the same way before, but now it was different. He had the power of the Power Stone, and under its power he had completely lost his mind. Li Qingyue drove away the Nova Corps and allowed Ronan's Dark Star to land. Ronan then stepped down, and the Guardians of the Silver and the Nova Corps surrounded him. Feeling the power emanating from the power gem on Ronan's hammer, everyone couldn't help but swallow hard. "Ronan, let's make a bet. If you can defeat me with the Power Stone, I will leave Xander and stop hindering your actions." But if you lose, you will hand over the Power Stone to me, leave Xander, and never invade it again. Is that acceptable? Ronan sneered and said, Humph. Fine, I agree. After all, he held the Power Stone and didn't think he would lose, so he agreed immediately. Then Li Qingyue spread his hands, indicating that Ronan should come on. Ronan didn't hold back, raising his giant hammer. The power gem on the hammer immediately shot out a purple energy beam, which struck Li Qingyue. Li Qingyue immediately felt a heat in his chest. At the same time, the horse and dog talismans he carried took effect, continuously repairing the damage caused by the power gem. Finally, Li Qingyue shouted and directly appeared in front of Ronan, braving the energy beam from the power gem. He snatched the giant hammer and then easily knocked Ronan away with a sweeping motion. Ronan refused to give up and wanted to continue fighting, but what Li Qingyue did next made Ronan stop. Li Qingyue lifted the dark star with one hand, and he still hadn't touched the power gem because the giant hammer was stuck into the ground. In other words, Li Qingyue lifted the dark star with his own physical strength. No one knew the dark star's power better than Ronan, so he was afraid. Without saying a word, he slunk back to the dark star and left Xander. Li Qingyue then removed the power gem and felt the amplification it brought. His eyes were gradually filled with purple energy, but the purple energy soon began to fade. Finally, Li Qingyue held the power gem and came to Star-Lord and the others. Could you please provide me with a container for the power gem? Thank you. Looking at the polite Li Qingyue, Star-Lord swallowed hard, then gave the outer shell of the cosmic orb to Li Qingyue, who then put the power gem inside and finally stored it in his inventory. So now my transaction is complete. What about yours? I know where there are planets suitable for humans to live on. Here is a star map. The planets marked with stars are suitable for human habitation and have no civilization. A green-skinned female alien handed Li Qingyue a star map and said, Thank you. After obtaining the star map, Li Qingyue handed his business card to Star-Lord and then flew towards the universe. They even witnessed Li Qingyue flying into the wormhole alone. They had never seen anyone who could traverse a wormhole with their bare body before, not even the adoptive father of that green female alien. After all, this female alien is Gamora, and her father is Thanos, Marvel's most powerful villain. It's easy to imagine how powerful Li Qingyue is now, but it doesn't matter, since Li Qingyue is not their enemy. After passing through several wormholes, Li Qingyue returned to Earth's atmosphere and entered the space station. As soon as he entered, he noticed that the atmosphere was strange. It seemed that the Skrulls here had split into two groups and were confronting each other. What are you doing here? Li Qingyue asked, looking at the two groups of Skrulls in front of him. You're back? Did you get the stuff? Director Fury asked quickly. We've got it. So what's the situation here now? It's good that you're back, everyone. Listen to me. We have the coordinates of our new home, and we can set off for it immediately. Talos, how do we know you're not lying to us? In another 10 years or so, this space station won't be able to meet our needs at all. What will we do then? A young Skrull questioned. Everyone, we really have coordinates now. Calm down, Talos shouted. He then looked at Li Qingyue, who immediately took out a star map, opened it, and everyone saw the highlighted star systems. Li Qingyue then clicked on the star systems and then on the highlighted planets, which were marked with approximate data, such as the size of the planets and their approximate lifespan. Everyone, the highlighted planets are those suitable for human habitation. But you should be able to survive there too, right? The main problem is that there's not enough time. This is the only star map I could get. Is it all right? Yes, that's enough. Thank you so much, Talos said excitedly. After all, decades had passed, and they could finally go to their new home. The older generation were all moved to tears, as they had been looking forward to this day for far too long. This is the machine you wanted. Just press a button, and it can scan all the Skrulls on Earth and mark their locations. Talos handed a machine to Li Qingyue. Li Qingyue led Director Fury away from the space station, and the Skrulls began modifying the space station after Director Fury and his team left. After all, they were the ones who built this space station, which was constructed using modules. Whenever needed, the space station could be immediately transformed into a giant spaceship or divided into individual spaceships. In short, after Li Qingyue and the others left, Talos began to direct the Skrulls to begin modifying the space station, which would take about 6 months. After another 6 months, they would be able to go to their new home. On the other side, after Li Qingyue and Fury returned to Earth, they immediately went to the Marvel Studios. Boss, you're finally back, Walter exclaimed excitedly upon seeing Li Qingyue return. What's wrong? What happened? Boss, you should check the news. Li Qingyue frowned as he took the tablet and looked at the news on it. His already furrowed brows furrowed even more. The news reports were all about Li Qingyue and his team handling cases. What was most outrageous was that after some editing, Li Qingyue and his team were portrayed as utterly wicked, which made everyone who knew about Marvel Studios show expressions of disgust. Even Richard and his friends were affected. He had no choice but to temporarily suspend his studies. Not only him, but also Leah, Peter and Ned were affected and had to temporarily suspend their studies as well. However, Richard felt it was because of his own reasons that he let Peter and Ned live with him, and also to tutor them. Others are also affected to some extent, but those who get along well with them are mostly in the dark side, so they are basically not affected. Interesting, really interesting. But it doesn't matter. These rats hiding in the shadows. Let me expose your true colors. Li Qingyue muttered to himself, then turned on the machine that Talos had given him. However, he found that the machine could not scan the scrolls, which made Li Qingyue very angry. He believed that Talos had deceived him. He immediately took the machine and flew to the space station, standing before Talos once again. Talos, how dare you deceive me? Li Qingyue shouted angrily. Sir, what do you mean by that? Your machine is completely useless, Li Qingyue said, throwing the machine to Talos. Talos frowned, disassembled the machine to make sure it was working properly, and then turned it on in front of Li Qingyue. As a result, all the scrolls on the entire space station were scanned. The machine is working fine, sir. Are you sure there really are shape-shifting scrolls on Earth? Confirmed, 100% certain. Then there's only one possibility. The scrolls hidden on Earth have undergone bloodline evolution, which is why the machine I set up can't scan them. I need to upgrade the machine, but that will take about 5 days. Alright, I'll give you 5 days. If your machine can't scan for the scrolls hidden inside the Earth, then our deal can't be done, and don't blame me for taking the star map. Don't worry, I can upgrade the machine in 5 days. Trust me, Talos said, looking directly into Li Qingyue's eyes. Li Qingyue nodded, then left the space station and flew towards Earth. Talos disassembled the machine and began a 5-day upgrade. Although they could directly copy the star map, Talos knew Li Qingyue's strength and did not want to bring a powerful enemy to his people. After returning to Earth, Li Qingyue immediately ordered all his employees to enter the firm's space and rest for 5 days. Once he obtained the machine, Li Qingyue would teach these scrolls hiding in the shadows a terrible lesson. However, for now they can only hide. After all, if he wants to continue running his firm on Earth, he can't afford to offend all of humanity. Otherwise his firm won't have any business. Even though they shut down the agency, the Skrulls lurking in the shadows didn't want to let them go. This group of Skrulls even incited people to march towards the agency. But they seemed unaware that the firm had its own space, thinking that by surrounding them, they could force them to appear. And they seemed to have forgotten that the place where Li Qingyue was located was called Hell's Kitchen, and the people here would show these protesters what Hell's Kitchen was all about. Those who entered the march could take almost nothing with them except their clothes, which further fueled the anger of ordinary New York residents towards Hell's Kitchen. Some agitated residents even picked up weapons and confronted gang members in Hell's Kitchen. Don't forget, the true owner of Hell's Kitchen is Kingpin. In addition, most of Kingpin's men have now mastered gunfighting, and their individual strength far exceeds that of special forces. So unless the army is deployed, these ordinary residents simply have no way to win this battle. At the border of Hell's Kitchen, a large number of residents drove their own cars and blocked the intersection, while holding various automatic rifles and pointing them at the intersection. They would open fire as soon as anyone appeared, hoping to force the police and military to intervene and wipe out Hell's Kitchen. Moreover, in a high-end restaurant in Washington, D.C., heavily guarded, a room was set up with a round table around which sat several people of considerable background. These people included the Prime Minister of England, the Secretary General of NATO, and the President of the White House, all of whom were transformed Skrulls. However, all the Skrulls are on the space station, so where did the Skrulls here come from? Are you really sure this will force them to leave? We've determined that he seems to be constrained by something and must keep his agency open. If the agency closes or he doesn't get any more commissions, there's a high chance his abilities will disappear or be weakened. Then we can defeat him, defeat all the superheroes, completely take over the Earth, get their blood again, and create more Super Skrulls. You're right. But the question is, can your plan really go through? America is your territory. It's up to you, they said, looking at the Skrulls disguised as the White House president. I know, but you should also know that this is Kingpin's territory. You should know how terrifying Kingpin's power is. Unless you kill him. Leave this to me, a young man said. He was one of the Super Skrulls. There weren't many Super Skrulls left, so they had to use them with caution. After all, based on their existing intelligence, Li Qingyue possesses the ability to completely kill a Super Skrull, so they must use it with extreme caution before weakening Li Qingyue's strength. But if Jean doesn't die, they can't continue their plan. If the plan can't be implemented, they can't weaken Li Qingyue. It's a vicious cycle, so they have to send out the Super Skrulls. The young man got up and left. Everyone watched his retreating figure. After he left, they also dispersed and left the place. At this moment, Kingpin, inside Wilson Building, is unaware that he has been targeted. Is Richard all right? Kingpin asked, standing atop the high building and looking down at the people below. It's all right. Young Master Richard is very magnanimous and doesn't care about these rumors at all. Besides, young Master Richard has already entered the agency's space and is perfectly safe now, Bullseye replied. Be careful from now on. If I'm not mistaken, they're probably heading straight for me. Why do you say that about the boss? Bullseye asked, puzzled. Because their target is the firm, Kingpin replied. Bullseye was even more confused now, since Kingpin had just said that their target was them, but now he said that their target was the firm. Don't you understand? Their real target is the firm, because they believe that closing the firm will greatly weaken or even eliminate Mr. Li's power. That's why they incite these ignorant people to hold demonstrations and even force the police and military to get involved. But now, because of my existence, they dare not act recklessly. But what if I die? Then the empire I created will collapse, and they will be able to get involved. At that time, Hell's Kitchen will disappear. Am I right? Kingpin turned to look at Bullseye, his eyes sharp, but Bullseye sneered and said, As expected of the Underworld Emperor, you are indeed clever. You are right, this is our plan. But unfortunately, although you have seen through our plan, it seems that you have not made any preparations. Who told you I wasn't prepared? Kingpin's size began to shrink, and then he transformed into Li Qingyue's appearance. It turned out that Li Qingyue had already guessed their intentions. For Kingpin's safety, he had Walter concoct a polysaccharide potion, transforming Li Qingyue into Kingpin's appearance, waiting for them to take the bait. At this moment, Bullseye also began to change, transforming into a strong Skrull. His left hand became the Frost Giant's ice blade, and his right hand became the Hulk's powerful arm, while his entire body radiated seven-colored energy. Super Skrull truly lives up to its name. Li Qingyue appeared behind him in a flash and kicked him away. Super Skrull burst through the wall like a cannonball, but he quickly adjusted his body and hovered in the air. Li Qingyue then arrived in the air, and the two began close combat. Unfortunately, no superhero on Earth could match Li Qingyue's strength, not even the Hulk. Unless it was an extremely enraged Hulk or Green Scar and Immortal Hulk, the Hulk in his normal state wouldn't even be able to hold his own against Li Qingyue before being knocked unconscious. So it wasn't long before the Super Skrull was already at a disadvantage, even being completely outmatched. In the end, Li Qingyue punched him into Times Square, New York. Just as Li Qingyue was about to give chase, the Super Skrull suddenly transformed into Thor, and the scene of Li Qingyue attacking Thor for no reason was played again. In a fit of rage, Li Qingyue landed directly in Times Square and killed the Super Skrull in front of everyone. However, to his surprise, the Super Skrull did not revert to its original form and died in Thor's appearance. This is impossible, Li Qingyue thought to himself in shock. After all, Skrulls would immediately revert to their original form after death, but he was still in Thor's appearance. Even if Li Qingyue really knew that he was a Skrull, it didn't mean that others knew. In the eyes of others, Li Qingyue had killed Thor. Some of Thor's fanatics, especially some children, came out and threw whatever they were holding at Li Qingyue. You're a bad guy. You killed Thor. We hate you. The children threw things at Li Qingyue, but he neither dodged nor flinched. Looking at the crowd surrounding him and the foul language they were spewing, Li Qingyue knew he couldn't stay there any longer, or he would really lose control and start a massacre. So he soared into the sky and left. When he returned to the office space, Jill quickly came up to him and asked cautiously, Are you all right? Li Qingyue shook his head and said, I'm fine. I really fell for their trick this time. I didn't expect them to be so cunning. As he spoke, Li Qingyue sighed. This time, his confrontation with the Super Skrulls was a crushing defeat. After all, Super Skrulls could be created again, But they only needed to sacrifice one Super Skrull to put Li Qingyue and the agency on the opposite side of humanity. Now, even those who know the truth cannot openly help them. So, Li Qingyue suffered a crushing defeat. Not only that, this group of Skrulls, who appeared out of nowhere, also began to divide the other superheroes, aiming to plunge the entire world into chaos. At this moment, in the Avengers base, all the original Avengers members except Thor were sitting in the conference room watching everything that was happening on the screen. Do you believe it? Mr. Li really killed Thor, Tony said slowly. Impossible. Thor just contacted us yesterday. He's in Asgard dealing with Ragnarok and has no time to come to Earth. So the one who was killed wasn't Thor, but a shape-shifting being, Dr. Banner said. So the question is, what is their purpose? Steve asked, looking at the others. They're targeting Mr. Li's firm, trying to make it shut down. But what is their purpose in doing this? Natasha said, frowning. I have a guess here. They think that Mr. Li's power comes from these agencies, so they want to find a way to make Mr. Li's agencies go out of business and weaken him at the same time. According to the information we have, Mr. Li's strength is enough to crush all the superhumans in the world. In other words, these people hiding in the shadows are plotting a conspiracy. However, there is one obstacle, and that is Mr. Li. Clint said his analysis. I feel like your guess might be right, and they've already succeeded about halfway. Now all they need to do is storm Hell's Kitchen, and the agency will be shut down. But I have a feeling their next target will be us, Tony said, frowning. Why do you say that? With this kind of turmoil happening, do you think we don't need to step in? We definitely will. They know we will, so they must be trying to stop us. But don't forget, besides our Avengers, there's also the Alliance. Unless they find a way to completely prevent our two alliances from taking care of the situation here. Civil war, Steve suddenly exclaimed. The others nodded in agreement, because only a civil war could keep them from worrying about Hell's Kitchen. But what kind of thing would cause us to break out into a civil war? Natasha asked, puzzled. Everyone shook their heads, indicating they didn't know either. But Steve's expression suddenly changed, and Tony noticed this change. Steve, do you know anything? Steve lowered his head, pondering whether he should tell them the truth. Steve, if you know the truth, I hope you will tell me. Don't forget that this is a crisis that threatens the entire planet. Bucky, the Winter Soldier? I remember he regained his memories and retired, didn't he? Tony, I hope you can stay calm no matter what you hear next, Steve said, looking at Tony with a hint of pleading in his voice. When Tony heard Steve speak in that tone, his mind began to search through his memories. He quickly seemed to confirm something, and immediately stood up, while the others, Steve closed his eyes and nodded painfully, explaining, yes, but he was brainwashed by Hydra at the time, and he never intended to harm your parents. He killed my parents, Tony shouted angrily. Seeing Tony gradually losing control, everyone understood why the civil war had occurred. How can I stay calm? He killed my parents. Tell me, where is he? Tony grabbed Steve by the collar and demanded. Just then, a heavy thud was heard outside the door. Dr. Banner came to the door and was about to open it when he suddenly stopped, as if he had already sensed what was outside. Not only him, but everyone else also noticed something. Tony pushed Dr. Banner aside, opened the door, and found a person lying on the ground. It was Bucky, the Winter Soldier. Upon seeing him, Tony immediately tried to take action. He grabbed the watch on his wrist, pulled it, and the watch instantly transformed into the hand part of the armor. Although it seemed to be a simplified version, it was enough. This thing could fire a deadly laser. As orange light began to gather in his palm, Steve rushed over and pushed Tony away, but the laser hit Bucky's ear instead. Steve, are you really going to stop me? Tony roared. Bucky woke up at that moment and saw Steve and Tony facing off. As soon as he stood up, Tony summoned his armor and donned it instantly. Steve also raised his shield. Bucky was stunned by the scene before him, not understanding why they were fighting. Suddenly, something occurred to him, and he gave a wry smile, saying, "Enough!" Hearing Bucky's shout, everyone stopped and turned to look at him. "I'm so sorry, Tony. I'm willing to give my life. I'm sorry for your parents' deaths, but I had no choice. I was brainwashed and became a killing machine. Steve, don't stop him. It's what I deserve." After saying that, Bucky knelt down, closed his eyes, and prepared to face his death. Looking at his father's killer, Tony raised his arm. Steve couldn't bear to see this and turned his head away, but his clenched fist still revealed his inner turmoil. Tony watched Bucky face his death with equanimity, his hands trembling uncontrollably. He really wanted to kill the enemy before him, but reason told him that Bucky was not the real enemy. Hydra was the real enemy. Finally, under the weight of his heroic mission, Tony calmed down, withdrew his hand, and said, "Get out of here, and don't let me see you again." Bucky opened his eyes, surprised that he had managed to escape this time. "Why did you let me go?" Tony didn't speak. He just looked at him calmly. Bucky was silent for a while before saying, "I want to make up for the mistakes I made. Go find Steve, Natasha. I need some peace and quiet. If there's anything, you can handle it." After saying that, Tony left dejectedly. Watching his lonely figure, Natasha took out her phone and contacted Pepper, asking her to come and keep Tony company. Although Tony has come to terms with it, it takes immense willpower to let go of the enemy who killed his parents. Tony buried his face in his arms, and after what seemed like an eternity, a warm embrace enveloped him. Tony smelled the familiar scent, turned around, and hugged the person who had entered. "It's okay, Tony. You still have, and I still have the baby in my belly." "Kid!" Tony looked up and exclaimed in surprise. "Yes, we have our own child." Upon hearing the news, Tony cheered with delight. The others, hearing Tony's cheers, thought he had gone mad. However, when they learned that Pepper was pregnant, they all became excited. At least the Civil War was over.